Hello everyone, my name's Jules. I have a sister named Claire, and if you ever saw her, you would be surprised. If you met my sister and me a few years ago, you would see two normal girls having fun outside. I just loved riding the bike. Claire loved roller skates. Our dad bought them for us every year because we used them so much that the bikes and roller skates could just not keep up with us and broke down. I loved when it was like this. I wake up on a summer day, go down for a delicious breakfast, chat with mom and dad, and then go with Claire to a park or square not far from home and ride until the evening. At this time, our biggest problem was how to persuade our parents to have some more ice cream. A carefree life. That's what it's called. Claire was a couple of years older than me. I liked the way she dressed. Pants, blouses, shoes. She had gorgeous golden hair. I've never seen anyone else able to move so smoothly in heels like her. And then everything changed. Life became different. Our aunt my parents trusted, and they never made a bigger mistake. I really did not want to live with her. I kept saying that I would go with them to another country, but they only laughed. Promised that they would come back soon. They had urgent business to take care of. Mom reassured me that because Claire was with me, and we would be fine. As soon as they left, Aunt Lisa immediately took off her mask. She was very old school, so she never used the internet. There was no computer or Wi-Fi in her house. She took away our phones, saying that it was for our own good. Our parents promised to send her monthly money for our expenses, plus paying her extra for taking care of us. Claire was sure that she just sold our phones, that's all. So we were cut off from our parents. The first 2 weeks, they called on home phone. My mom asked her sister to give us the phones back, but my aunt said, "No way, my house, my rules." It was impossible to argue with her. But then our life turned to hell, and no one knew about it except me and my sister. Aunt Lisa gave us a room in the basement. It was damp, and sometimes I heard weird noises. I was scared, and only my sister calmed me down. We lived in such harsh conditions for a couple of months. During this long period, Claire had changed a lot. She got into fights with our aunt every day because of me. She literally had to fight for extra food for me. And she herself was always... Claire did household chores as our aunt asked. She went to school in the morning, and when she came back, she would clean and wash everything. I felt sorry for her, so I tried to help, but my sister felt sorry for me. It felt bad to watch her go from a once beautiful girl to some housekeeper or servant. She no longer had a smile on her face. She became more and more withdrawn. And one time, some people came to my aunt's house. They were looking for her. Only then we realized that she owed a large amount of money to some serious people. Claire opened the door, explained that she was not at home. But when they saw us, they began to laugh out loud. "You're pretty," said one of them to Claire. She hit him on the arm as he tried to touch her cheek. He got angry and tried to grab her, but she fought back hard. I didn't even know she knew how to defend herself like that. In just a couple of minutes, she managed to knock the stranger out. And then they saw me. I didn't have time to escape, and Claire was near me in a second. She defended me so fiercely that I didn't even have time to really understand what happened. Then my aunt entered the door. She began to apologize, kneel in front of them, and asked for forgiveness. Somehow she swore that she soon would have the money, and they left. The same evening, we heard her asking for money from our parents. She said that it was for school. Our parents sent only a couple thousand. They felt embarrassed. We desperately wanted to talk to them, but my aunt was lying to them. She said that we were sleeping. And so it was like that for months. She made up anything to keep us away from the phone. One night, Claire said it was time for us to leave the house. At first, I discouraged her, but she said that she could no longer live like this. Then I agreed. We packed our things, waited for my aunt to fall asleep, and ran out of the house. We ran in the middle of the night for a very long time. I didn't know where we were running to and how we were going to live. And only a couple of hours later, when we finally stopped at a motel room, for which we paid with our last money, Claire began to cry. For the first time in so many months, I saw her crying and I felt so sorry for her. I hugged her and said that our parents would come back soon and everything would be fine, but she only hugged me tighter in return. In the morning, we woke up, had modest breakfast, and Claire started looking for an internet cafe to find out Dad's work address. We managed to find something, sent an email to my dad's work email, and then we just had to wait. We sat near a phone booth. Time passed slowly. Suddenly the phone rang. We were so happy, and as soon as we reached the phone booth, a man dropped the call. It was him, the same stranger that visited my aunt. The other men surrounded us. This time there were more of them. They managed to push us into a car where our aunt was sitting. She began to tell us in a threatening voice that we have misbehaved and that if we promise to remain silent, she won't harm us. Claire spat in her face. Then she said that she would call our mom, and when she arrives, those criminals would be waiting for her. Everything was crystal clear. I could not believe that our aunt was a criminal. So we came to her house. Aunt Lisa locked all the doors, said that as soon as she got the needed amount from our parents, she would let us go. But for now, she locked us in a room, but this time in a different one, and even had a guard next to it. She spent one day there, and then Claire again began to plan our next actions. And then we agreed that I would play along. Claire began to cry out for help. She began to scream that I felt bad. "She's choking! Help! Doctor!" she shouted. The man outside the door got really scared. I pretended to feel bad and had seizures on the floor. My aunt opened the door, but she was in no hurry to call an ambulance. Then Claire said that if I died, my aunt would have to answer before our parents. The strangers immediately ran away, and our aunt called an ambulance. As soon as the doctors arrived, she made an angel out of herself, as if trying to help. While the doctors were examining me, my sister skillfully slipped a note to one of the doctors. He immediately understood everything, said that I needed to be hospitalized. My aunt tried to resist, but the doctor told her that I could die. Claire jumped into the car with me, and my aunt said that she would also go. But the doctor said to go in her own car because there was no more room. On the way to the hospital, we told the doctor our story, and he called the police. When we arrived at the hospital, the police came from around the corner and approached my aunt. She tried to defend herself and then run away, but she was caught. My sister and I gave all the evidence against her, and she was arrested. And then they went to look for those criminals. We spent the night at the hospital. We were examined, fed, and finally, for the first time in a long time, we managed to fall asleep. The next morning, we were awakened by screams in the hallway. Those came from our parents. They came running to us in tears. They looked so frightened. Finally, the whole nightmare was left behind. Mom kept saying that my aunt would pay for everything, but we didn't really want to hear about her. In the end, we were just glad that we were all right. So what happened next? It all went according to law, but that's a different story. Now, we live with Mom and Dad, and they promised that they would never trust anyone again. Only a month later, Claire began to become more of herself. She wore her heels again and let loose her gorgeous hair. It was a good sign. I realized that if not for my sister, then something terrible might have happened. But I have her and I'm so happy. If you liked the video, then leave it a thumbs up and write a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe.